Allow me to reintroduce myself.
You are now tuning in to the Snap Call Podcast.
What's going on? What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 3, season 2. I'm Xavier.
Hector.
And I'm Ice.
And Ice is live from the sunny beach area of, where are you? Like St. Pete, right? You're down there?
Bonita Springs, kind of by Naples, Fort Myers area.
Bonita Springs. You're by the Hyatt down there, huh?
Yes, sir.
I love that area. Well, Ice is remote with us today. Lots and lots to cover. Appreciate the commitment because Ice knows we got a lot of topics to cover. So Ice is gonna kick us off, and we're just gonna get rolling here. Ice, let's go.
All right, to kick it off, a little whining. I'm gonna come out a little whining today, but Poker Go pissed me off. Let's start off with the first topic. So in the 25K event, with Ivy and Negrano, pretty much at the same table, and we're down to, I think, was it 12 people left? And you pay the subscription to Poker Go to watch these guys in these big events, and Poker Go decided not to make the decision and change the event they currently had on schedule to stream. What are you guys' thoughts on that? I know Twitter was going a little bit crazy about Poker Go as well too with this.
I mean, I get that there is I get that there's a lot of resources that go into play, but they need to have like a backup crew, like at all times, I feel like, because these things can happen, right? Like, you need to be able to say, we're going to put a schedule out there. People want to know what they're going to watch in advance. But if Negranu and Ivy are in the top 15, 16 of a tournament, like, you need to be able to pivot. So, like, whether that's having like a skeleton crew that's ready to roll with like even a simple camera, because it's not going to be on the main stage, you need to be ready for that. I think it's silly that they don't have that ready. We got to rely on updates and reading. I don't care if they got a Poker Go employee out there with an iPhone. I'd rather see that than truthfully see an event with people that we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest names in poker. You're gonna film them. Everybody's gonna be watching the live updates more than whoever is on your feature table right now. So you have to pivot and go where the audience is, and you have to give them that. And yeah, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know who's gonna run deep, and I'm sure there's some names in the ones that they were playing, but it's Phil Ivey and Danny Negrano at the same table.
Yeah, I think Poker Go dropped the ball on this one. Because say you didn't have a subscription, right? And you're like, wait, you hear the updates on Negrano and Ivy chasing a bracelet,
Yeah,
and they're at the same table. Let me sign up. Let me join at least a month for get the whole year subscription. Then when they try to join, they're like, hey, they're not showing it. They're not showing the 25K. They're showing $1,000 event, which not taking anything from the $1,000 event, but you're talking about a high roll event with one of the best, pretty much the top 2 guys in poker. Yeah. So it's Poker Go really disappointed me on that.
Yeah, it just kind of blows my mind because like you would think over the past couple years they would have learned about that, or they would have learned for some of their mistakes, because this isn't the first time it's happened. Definitely the first time this year, but it's just crazy to me. Like, and then like you said, people on social media, like I was one of those in the comments. I was firing off comments like, "Yo, like how you guys not able to adapt in the moment?" It's a poker tournament, right? Like anybody, and your freaking Trump could show up in late reg for a tournament and be at the final table. And are they gonna show it? You don't know, right? So I think they need to be able to pivot in that moment. I understand it's a lot of resources, but they plan to be there for 6-8 weeks, whatever it is. They got the cameras, they got the crew. Like, give the people what they want. It's not a cheap subscription, in my opinion, because there's a lot of poker content out there that's for free. And I get like during the summer, this is where you want to be, but at the same time, like, you got to give what it's worth to the viewers and give them what they want.
Yeah, and then especially like you have them at the feature table, the $1,000 event, right? All you have to do is move the tables. Like, hey, 25K goes to the table we was going to stream, then the $1,000 event goes to where the 25K was. As soon as the big name gets eliminated, then you can be like, hey, take a little 10-minute break. Everybody move. That's it. But you have to give the people what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, even before this is happening, you should you should probably prioritize filming the 25K final table over a 1K final table. It just in general.
Yeah.
Like
Well, I
you're
don't
gonna
think it
have
was at.
bigger names.
I don't think it was at the final table yet. I think that's the thing.
They were like what, bottom two? It wasn't Ivy and Negrano like.
Well, they were at
But
the
they were
final two tables, but they were prioritizing like a true final table with like 5 or 6 people left.
Gotcha.
So I get that, but to your point,
Mhm.
like they still need to be able to adjust. Like, and you know, we've seen their setups, right? Like they got their main event table,
Mhm.
and then they've got feature tables on the side, and we're not talking like just the regular tables. Like they've got tables that are feature tables, dedicated cameras and whatnot to it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just weird that they didn't have that because you know that's what we want to see at the end of the day, and I think that the majority of poker players want to see, not just us.
plain and simple. Poker Go, the fans are paying the subscription. Give the fans what they want. I think it was like an executive decision. Like, oh no, we're just gonna like. I don't know if they get along with D-Nags or with Phil Ivey and stuff like that, because that can be a lot of politics too. I thought just like, hey, we invited them on this event. They decided not to show up, or maybe they want a certain amount of money to be on these Poker Go streams and stuff like that. So it could have to do with that too, but
Yeah.
they dropped the ball. Just give the fans what
Well,
they want. And
you know, Kerry Katz, who's in all of the high rollers, Poker Go is Kerry Katz's platform. So like,
yeah,
if anyone can make a change at the drop of a dime, it's him. I'm sure if we went back to the attendees or the entries list, he was in that event. And if he wasn't in that event, he's in the high roller taking place right now. So, like,
Right.
if he was in the final 16 or something, I'm sure they would have been giving coverage on him. So that's his platform. He's always playing in the super high roller events that are played at the Aria studio. So, you know, he knows the importance of the coverage on these big players. So it's interesting, you know, the decision that went behind it. I'm interested to see what those conversations were like.
yeah. And then back to another negative topic. Let's switch gears a little bit here. Um, let's talk about Chris Moneymaker and Jungle Man calling out scammers. Uh, lately, it's been coming out a lot. Just like I know because the WSOP started, so there's more emphasis on these guys coming out and actually they see them in Vegas playing tournaments and they owe a lot of their backers money. What are your thoughts now that Chris Moneymaker, which is a huge name in poker, and Jungle Man isn't as huge, but he's still a big name calling out these scammers?
Yeah. No. It's the right thing to do. You know, every I don't know why it's so taboo not to call anybody out. I think as soon as somebody owing me a certain amount of money over a certain period of time, I'm not waiting 2 years, 5 years to be like, hey, this guy is doing this. No, I'm letting the world know right away because I don't want you to get took. You know, I don't want somebody else to get took. So I'm putting that out right away. So I don't know what this whole thing is or why it's so taboo. The only part that I don't like is it's kind of taken away from, let's say it was the guy that just won, the Brent Hart, that, and then they point him out, and it's kind of like you kind of take away, like, you work hard for a bracelet. It was your first bracelet, and now it's like that
Yeah.
cloud over it. It kind of takes away from that type of a moment, but at the same time, you got to get your feet to the fire and be held responsible for what you owe.
Yeah, I mean, I think I sent it to the group chat, or it was either just the ICE or the group chat, but it was a guy talking about Brent Hart owing money from another tournament that he ended up making like 6 figures in, and it wasn't even a big debt. Like
Yeah.
that's the crazy part.
Hmm.
I mean, in general, like 100%, like you said, it's kind of weird that it's taboo and people don't like other people to call each other out. I'm all for calling each other out, like in those situations, right? Like, because typically the person you're calling out is guilty. It's not like they're a friend, um, and they fleeced you for X amount of dollars, right? But like, the poker community's small, and it's small enough that like these people are bouncing around like lice to different other people in order to try to get some sort of backing, with 1,000, 500, 200, whatever the case. Like, it's just they're consistent. They're going to continue to do that. It's when they win the big money, right? Like we've talked about Maurice Hawkins before. Ice is going to mention Brent Hart here in a minute. Like,
Tom Dwan, all these guys.
the whole Tom Dwan thing we talked about. Like, it is wild. It is wild that it's common, but since we're like part of that community, like it's not really too common either, right? Because we see people go broke all the time. They want a handout, and there's obviously a level of like competitiveness, and like some people are just they can't handle the swings, so they want to get right back into it. But I think it's a good thing. But like you said, it does kind of cast a shadow. The timing is unfortunately a poor timing. You never want to see these types of conversations taking place during the WSOP, but you also want to protect people at the same time.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I love it when people call other scammers out. Like, so I look at it like three ways. You can call a guy out, right? Say Chris Moneymaker calls out whoever he called out, right? Some guy from Ohio, right? You give him a little chance, like, hey, if you guys know this guy, he's ditching my phone calls. If you guys know, tell him he owes me money, right? Maybe the guy, is like, in between paying him and not paying him, and then he gets called out. Maybe he'll pay Moneymaker, right? Or it can stop him from scamming other players as well too. So just like you call him out, it can like put a light on, like, hey, this guy's a scammer. Like, don't back him, don't stake him, don't do anything. Like, he's a piece of shit for the most part. And then another reason is there's guys that live on scamming. Like, it's just certain individuals that their life is about scamming. That's it. They can win all the money and they still won't pay back. They just like to scam. They want a handout. They want everything for free. So
Yep.
I'm all for it. And it sucks that poker is like one of the big ones for people not paying back for some reason. Like, and they use excuses. Oh, I lost it playing blackjack. I lost it gambling and stuff like that. And it's just like, yeah, but when you win a tournament and you cash, right there, you're supposed to pay your backers right away.
Yep.
Like, it's no excuse.
And it sucks because like Maurice Hawkins, right? Like I can't root for the guy just because of all the stories, and whether we know it's true or not, we're not part of that specific situation. It sucks because I want to root for him, right? Like seems like a cool guy. He's a minority, killing it. One of the top guys of all time for WSOP rings. And the worst part about it all is he's really good at poker. Like
Yeah.
it's not like he's some sort of bum that's won like a ring here and he's kind of known for leeching. Like no, like he's a fantastic poker player. But it's frustrating because he has this reputation that follows him, and instead of like wiping it clean and then just making the situation right, I think he's just kind of bitter at the reputation he's gotten, so he's not going to pay some of these people back if that's what it's come down to.
Chris
And it
Ferguson.
sucks because it's ruining his legacy, because he's either one or two in WSOP rings, and
I think he's second.
second,
Yeah.
and it sucks because we should be singing his praises, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least up from the circuit standpoint, and
Yeah.
we can't because he's got that cloud over him.
Yeah, that's what rubs me the wrong way a little bit. Hey, you deserve to get praised a little bit. Like, hey, I want a bracelet, I want a ring. Those are big moments in poker players' eyes. Like, that's what we strive for. And then just to have this cloud over you, and it's like, come on, man. Like, when it comes out like the same night, I was like, hey, give me a chance to send you the money. Oh man. I did have a question. So, like poker stake and you stake and all this stuff, when you cash or anything, do they take your money like from the cage, and or do you get your payout and then you have to pay those sites to pay your backers?
That's a good question.
I don't know how it works.
Yeah, no, I've always wondered. I don't know if you know how it's paid out, Ice, but I would. I don't know. I would hope, right? Like it's a very streamlined process.
Yeah.
That like the casino or the tournament,
Mm-hmm.
they somehow go ahead and directly pay you. So, because if you think about it, like you got someone like Negreanu, who there's probably like 500 people that all got like a 0.5% of him. He's not going to sit there and go through the
Yeah.
books, right? So, I'm sure it's some sort of streamlined process. But yeah, I don't know exactly how it works. That's a good question.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're
I
also
don't.
charging something.
Oh, they got to get some sort of.
Yeah, so then that might be like the only deterrent to be like, hey, like let's do this face to face and avoid those convenience fees or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I don't know how they pay out, but if the WSOP or the Caesars, Paris, or anything, they're not getting a cut, they're not going to deal with that. They leave it up to stake and whoever the guy's getting stake them back to divide out the winnings and stuff he owes his backers.
hmm
But hopefully it's so far I haven't heard no complaints about it. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
other sides did, like they find a way, like they have the guys that find a way, like hey, he won this event. These are all the guys that stake him. This is owed to everybody. So I guess the guy just has to dish it out.
yeah, you just
And then
I'm sure you just put like you put in the money into the site and let the site divvy it out, but you still have to put that money on the site. You know what I mean? So if I'm a scammer, I just take that money and not do that. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm like, oh, maybe they take it from the case, so they guarantee people get paid out, and like this thing doesn't keep happening. So
It has to be something where like they probably take your social security or take something when you sign up for the site that they know everything
yeah,
about you.
yeah.
So
Or is it like eBay where it's like, hey, this guy has 100% payback rate?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't. No, I'm sure. Like, yeah, I'm sure the people that sign up and are selling action, like, there's no. I'm sure it's built in. Like, it's gotta be a bulletproof system where they can't not pay people out. And I'm sure it's streamlined where they don't even get the option to. It just automatically goes. Maybe it requires them setting up like some sort of special account directly with the casino or whoever's paying out, and that way they get their winnings right away, and then everything else gets spread out. But yeah, I mean those sites to take that much work on, like on the administrative side, like it makes you wonder what their cut is, because that's a lot of work that goes into it, especially like people like Negranu who are selling little bits but to hundreds of people. Like it makes you wonder, like, is the site, they get like a 1% kickback at the end of the day, like, like without having to invest, like makes you wonder what the transaction fees look like. So
oh yeah. And then we had event number 16, the 5K 8-handed. We had the guy that took it down was Brent Hart. First place is
so another cool event.
660,284. Um, this guy's an interesting case too because he's one of the guys that, like Hector mentioned, that are linked to not paying back their backers.
Mm-hmm.
This is a massive score, 660, so I'm pretty sure he doesn't owe that much to his backers. So will he do right and pay him back if he's obviously guilty of not paying these guys back? What are you guys' thoughts on it?
I don't know. Is he jumping into the one drop right after?
Yeah, right. It makes,
You
it
know?
makes you wonder. He's definitely free rolling for the rest of the summer, no matter where he plays. From what I read in that tweet I saw where the guy was calling him out before he won this bracelet, was about him. I want to say it was like either the Venetian or the Win. He won six figures in some tournament,
Yeah.
and I want to say he only owed like five. Like, it easily could have just paid and shut someone up.
Yeah.
They didn't, or he didn't, and clearly there's probably some sort of ego involved. Didn't feel like he needed to, at least in that moment. Probably felt like, I'm gonna pay you when I want.
Yeah.
And then now he's kind of getting that reputation. And yeah, you just won $660 or 660,000, but just kind of follows you now. So it's just that's frustrating, because I'm sure he'd be able to pay everyone back. But man, it sucks. But, and the worst part about it is he won his first bracelet, and that's his biggest catch of the career. And what are we talking about? Him not paying his backers. And it should be more about the fact that, he just had this big accomplishment.
And then,
This one,
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. And the thing I was gonna bring up is that we kind of, when all these come up, we kind of like automatically like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
Side?
yeah, we side with the person who threw it out there, that like, oh, they owe money. Like, maybe they don't. Maybe they already paid. Maybe the other person owes them. Like, kind of like Dwan was saying. Honestly, that situation, I didn't believe Dwan, but it could be the case. But it kind of seems like as soon as the tweet comes out, like, this guy owes. As opposed to, maybe he's paid, or maybe it's a small amount. Like, oh, this guy owes me money. I was like, oh, it's only $300. Relax, bro. So who knows?
And it sucks because with this guy's situation, right? He had Tyrone Lue, coach of the Clippers, railing stuff like that. So like he won the event, so it's just like, hey, you have a average Joe, have the coach of the Los Angeles Clippers railing him at a poker tournament. It could have been so big for poker, and poker could have done way more to advertise it. But I think this whole backing situation kind of like backed them up from advertising and promoting it more. So there's no reason why, like, if you do poker content, you're not praising this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great point. It was definitely overshadowed. Someone said that he probably owes Tyronn Lue money. So I don't know. Oh, Ice frozen? Ice, can you hear us?
There he is.
Oh,
He's back.
you're back. You're back. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Now, did you hear what I said about Tyronn Lue?
Yeah.
Someone said that that he probably owed Tyronn Lue money, so Tyronn Lue was there to collect.
That one was like West Coast, and we're waiting here to collect.
But to go back to
Oh,
what
and
Hector
then
was saying, like we tend to automatically side with the person that's outing them, and that's a really good point. Unfortunately, history tells us though that there's usually some sort of validity with their statements, right? Like you look at the Tom Dwan situation. We want to believe that Tom Dwan is innocent and all this, right? But there was the history there that he wasn't paying when he could have, right? And he's flat out came out and kind of said that. You look at the Maurice Hawkins stuff, right? Like, he didn't deny that, 100% that he wasn't paying these people. And then we know people in just kind of the social media poker circles, right? That are scammers or just not paying people back, or, it's just unfortunate. It kind of comes with the community. So, we as a community could probably do a better job of kind of remaining neutral, but it's hard. It's hard when the voices are out there, making all these claims, but then that person isn't speaking up and defending themselves, right? I mean, maybe he's letting his bracelet speak for itself, but I don't mean that you might not owe people money. So who knows?
Chris Ferguson still owes me money.
Chris Ferguson owes a lot of people money, yeah.
well, that's the thing. I'm glad you mentioned Chris Ferguson. It's just like, as poker players, older poker players, we know what happened Black Friday. Bunch of scammers. We know these online sites with these bots, marking cards, a whole bunch of stuff that goes on with scamming and poker. So it's just like, and I'm a big Tom Dwan fan as well. I like the way he plays,
Who?
but that whole Tom Dwan.
Oh.
So with the whole heads up challenge with Jungle Man, like him, like pretty much like saying, "Oh, I'm too busy to play these." Like that's the scam too, because you owe the man the money. Like you did the dirt challenge 3-1. Whoever can beat me, there's 3-1 on their money, and then you're behind, and all those things that you don't have time to play all these hands. Like,
You know why?
like you can fool somebody else, but
He's
you're just
too he's too busy playing in my cow.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, no, it's interesting. I mean, it sucks because it's just kind of that piece that comes along with poker and gambling. You're gonna come across shady characters, unfortunately, but you just that's exactly why it's important to raise it to the community, so people don't get fleeced.
And it's weird because I see poker as like an integrity game. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Like I'm not looking there to angle. Like the rules are the rules. You play with someone who's never played before. Hey man, you beat me. Here's your chips. Like we're always like accounting for exactly what's owed, and you know what I mean. So to hear these side stories, it's like people, trying to cheat the system or whatever. It's just it's disheartening.
It's money's involved, right?
Yeah.
Whenever there's money involved and you're talking large sums of money, sometimes that's gonna happen. I mean, I still to this day remember. I still remember this. It had to be like 7, 8, maybe 8 or 9, maybe like 7 or 8 WSOPs ago. There was, and I won't say their name, but there was a WSOP player that claimed that there was a social media poker player at the WSOP that claimed that they had their book bag stolen at like the White Castle, and they had like $10,000 in there and yada yada. And he went on video and he was crying, and he had a decent sized following, and all these people rallied together to basically get him a new phone, get home, and all this stuff. And then it turns out he was like at the pits. He was in more tournaments. He didn't lose any money, and he probably just went broke one day, broke his roll. But now he's getting funded by everyone else and free roll. And so it's just crazy, man. Like, 'cause you hate to see that, people work hard to establish their own brands and their own image. And then you got people like that because, you probably lost 10K in buy-ins, and now he's free rolling for another 10K. And the crazy part is he wasn't a bad poker player. He ended up eventually winning a ring. So, like, just clean it up, go home, rebuild, and come back. But a lot of people know now not to trust him.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. That whole thing was shady. Like he took a picture of like his backpack out of the White Castle.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this missing. Like, come on, man. Like, yeah, like you said, he's in the pits. He lost everything, or he's firing multiple bullets in these tournaments. And if he bought $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, he blew it through a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then he had nothing left. So, yeah, you just don't trust. That's why most of the time, like, it's hard to trust people because you have guys like that, So
Yeah, that's rough.
All right, so moving on, some good news. We got Scott Seiver and Robert Mizrachi both get their fifth ring, fifth bracelet. Sorry, we're talking about rings. Their fifth bracelet this past week. So Scott Seaver won the 10K Omaha High Low 8 or better, and Mizrachi got the 10K Dealer's Choice. So two guys, very well known, very well respected, and just putting another notch under their belt. So what do you think for them two? Where do you see them in the future? You see them getting to 10 or just keep moving on, maybe getting another one this year? I mean, Scott Seaver, he's definitely someone that, I vaguely thought about getting putting in the fantasy draft, just because I put him in the deep category, but he doesn't perform as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I mean these are two players that definitely flew under the radar in a lot of fantasy tournaments in general, but they probably don't get as much respect in the poker community as they should. Mixed game specialists, but they can throw down and hold them like anybody else. Specifically, Robert Mizrahi, like you got his brother, the grinder Mike, who was probably the more popular of the two players, but that whole crew they got, they're all grinders. Like they all can play. There's a whole bunch of them. And then you got Scott Seaver, like you said, who's a really good player as well. I think they all kind of playing with a chip on their shoulder. I'll mention here in a little bit as to why I think Robert's got more of a chip on his shoulder. But Robert had mentioned a comment specifically about the 25K fantasy on Twitter, and specifically said about how low he went and how he's kind of proven some haters wrong or some doubters wrong. So, I mean, kudos to them. I mean, you love to see the Negron news and all these people win bracelets, but I love to see consistent players do well because it's good for the game, right? Yep. Like when you're seeing these guys win multiple bracelets throughout the years, like it just goes to show that it is still very much a skill game. Sometimes it could be a crapshoot, don't get me wrong, but skill is going to triumph everything at the end of the day. And these aren't just these $1,500 tournaments they're winning. They're winning 10Ks. So the level of competition is even higher, and you're always going to get the doctors and the surgeons with a ton of money throwing their names in the hats. But these guys have just been consistently good for a long time, so it's cool. It's just nice to see good players consistently win over the last decade or two.
Yeah, so I like both of them, Seaver and Mizrachi. So I know that whole clique they have. It's they always into poker. They either have their little gaming site like a GG Poker. They have an app as well too. They do where you go to school to be a dealer as well too. They always into poker.
And they're down south here in Florida. They're like the Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale area. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Scott Seaver, he's been playing long time, high stake, constantly in these tournaments, and it's just consistency. So obviously these poker tournaments are hard to win, especially at the WSOP, and it's they just ran good. And skill and consistency is what got them there, because it's not easy winning those 10K events with that much skill.
Yeah, no, definitely cool.
So one of the other controversies that there is at the WSOP is max late regging. So apparently some people are getting they're being allowed to max late reg. So max late reg when registration is closed. So some people are getting pissed that some new tables are opening, or people are sitting down 20 minutes, 30 minutes after registration is closed. So what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, I know Bonomo had some stuff, but I'd rather hear you guys first.
Go Ice.
Yeah, so with this is I don't know if like the one I saw that was a little bit controversy was the guys for the 25K event that they were in line like for example, say the cutoff is at 1, they were in line at like 12:45, and then once 1 o'clock hit, they cut it off, and the people in the line couldn't enter, and they were like making a big deal out of it. But it's just like I'm all for like late registering and stuff like that. They have kiosks where you can just deposit money, so like you can wait on these lines, and if you can't get in just because of the wait time, there's other ways around it. And then as far as late reg, double max late reg, or whatever you call it, it's good. Like the more guys you can get in, the better. Because at the end of the day, like they come in with less big blinds than somebody that's been grinding since level one or whatever. That's been doing good. Obviously, there's people that's struggling since level one, but just bring the price pool up. Like it's good. I like it. So
Yeah. I know specifically I think it was Chris Brewer was one of the ones that complained. He was saying basically like 15 minutes after um Max Late Reg was basically supposed to have a cutoff, there were still people in line. Um I see both sides. I see as someone that maybe wants more entries to come in, that's just more money, they're fueling the price pool. Um but I can also see the frustration, right? Like your game can tend to switch up a little bit when you know there's not going to be so many more entries. You know what the price pool is going to be at the end of the day. You know when the bubble's going to burst. So I can understand. I think there definitely needs to be more structure involved around that. At least with the 25Ks, right? Like, and these 50Ks, 100Ks, whatever the case may be. Like, for me, I don't think there should be an excuse, and it's crazy to me that someone would even register that late at a buy-in that high. You know, like I want as many hands as possible, but it's not my money. Um, so I can understand like in a $300 Gladiator when you've got a line that's an hour and a half deep and people are just sitting or standing and waiting forever because you're gonna get 30,000 entries in a tournament. But in a 25K, that's tough. I mean, that's kind of tough. But it blows my mind. These people have that much money to play in these tournaments. What I would do, and I know these guys kind of just live life day to day. Like I would go with my 60, 70K, 80K bankroll, go late at night, go to the register and deposit all the money in my account, and then it's just easy. Like you said, go to the kiosk, make it easy. It's not like you can't get that money back out. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to say you have to use it for a tournament. So I just don't understand why they don't plan that much better. It's weird to me. I don't know.
So would you, what would you do cut off? Like, hey, like 1 o'clock, you bought it and you have your seat number and you're going, or you're in line before 1 o'clock. Now
in
the
line.
only caveat is I'll say, like, say you busted, you want to rebuy, you busted in the last 10 minutes, you should be allowed to rebuy. Like that, if you can, like, oh, I couldn't get to the window fast enough, but you knew you were going to, like that. I think that's a separate conversation. But like someone who just coming into the tournament, max late regin, do you cut it off at the line or do you cut it off buying your ticket?
Listen, uh, a lot of these complaining too that people just need to relax. Because I tell you why, if you got this $300 Gladiator event, right, and it's your last, like the last level to register, right, to late reg, and you are less than starting stack, you're gonna push all in, like either double up or you're gonna go rebuy, right?
Yeah.
So say it plays out, boom, boom, you lose, right? Perfect. As long as you get to the line before the time is cut off, right? Even if the line is backed all the way down there, you should be able to rebuy. And it's just, and these guys need to understand too, the players that are in this event, especially like a $300 Gladiator event, you have the mecca of poker, the World Series of Poker. You know the entries and the pros, like their strategies they use are a lot of times it's like, hey, if I'm low in chips, I'm gonna go all in. If I double up, fine. If not, I'm gonna go late reg, and you have to give them the chance to late reg. It's just, it is what it is. But as long as they're in that line, like, hey, you bust and you go straight to the line, I'm all for it. But if you're wandering around and thinking about it, and then last second, like, hey, you want to late reg and they let you in, then that's different, you know. But if you're in the line, they should take your money and you should be able to register.
I I think to me, in a perfect world, it's depend on the tournament. I think ideally, right? Like, hey, this is on WSOP to plan better. Um, when you know you're going to get that many entries for like the gladiators in those tournaments, you should have a completely separate registration area for those tournaments. That way, the dudes that are buying into the 25K, the 1500s, the 5Ks don't have to wait in the same lines. Now, I know sometimes they have like an expedited, like, hey, you're going to this tournament, you're going to see this lady right here. Like, it's a little bit different, but they truly need a dedicated area. Um, Going back to your question about do I think as long as they're in line by that time, versus what their ticket says, I think having a designated registration area for specific tournaments would help clear that up because then it's not like, dude, I've been in line for the last hour and a half with all these gladiator guys, right? Like, so I think that helps. Again, that's a perfect world. It's probably not feasible, but at the very least, when you're playing a high roller, there should be a completely separate buy-in and a registration area just for that, right? Like you should be able to go walk up, get your entry, and go straight in. You shouldn't have to wait for a super long time. So I get it. Um, I see both sides at the end of the day. You know.
Yeah. Or maybe even like, I don't know, like prepay your bullets. Like, hey, I'm buying. You know, they give them 2 buy-in, rebuy lantern.
Lamers, which
Lammers,
they got rid of. They don't have
yeah,
lamers anymore.
you know, like, and like, oh, I busted here. I'm rebuying real quick, you know, and then, you know, even if you bust out and you don't make the money, like, you still have your lammers that you're like, you know, I don't want to rebuy and just get that money back,
Yeah,
something
Yeah.
like that.
yeah. I think
My last.
they need to
Oh,
make
go ahead.
if they have a better system in place to load your account up, and which they already do, but
Yeah,
they need to encourage people or maybe incentivize them somehow to load your accounts up to avoid that.
hmm
It would make everyone's life easier.
yeah,
Yeah, and another thing with that is like we've been to the World Series of Poker. We know how many players there actually is there. It's like you can try to get more staff, but it's so hard to actually get workers that know what they're doing. Because sometimes you get a cashier that has to count this money,
yeah.
super slow, just because you paying them whatever it is just to count the money and give them a ticket. So it's kind of hard. I feel like poker players need to be more patient because you're at this huge event. It's not just like your local tournament at the Hard Rock Tampa, that they have like a convention. This is like you got cash games going, you got everything going. So it's just like I feel like poker players need to be a little bit patient, especially at the World Series of Poker. Like we've seen it with the dealers. Like you can lose your cool with the dealers because that's affecting the hand and stuff.
Yeah.
Or like they have to see the amount of people and they gotta see the staff. If the staff is working, it's kind of hard to justify like, hey, like hopefully every year they can get better and hopefully they can do more, but it's tough because we see how many players there is and it's hard to make everybody happy.
Yeah. No. 100%. 100%. So speaking of things they could do better, right? And staying on topic with the WSOP, there was a marking cards incident, which honestly probably happens on a daily basis. Let's be real. I know there was a big controversy last year with specifically one player that was marking cards.
They haven't caught me yet.
Yeah, and it's just kind of crazy, right? So like
I don't mark cards.
specifically, like I wanted to ask Ice because Ice has dealt right like in an actual poker room. What's kind of like the process, right? And we kind of know like they get a new set, they whatever, they look at the cards and whatever, but from the event that took place, it consistently kept happening, and supposedly they were showing the lady cards, and this lady that was like looking at them, and she was able to call the cards out, and she got every single one right. So like, typically, what's like protocol if as a dealer you find a marked deck, just so like viewers can understand what that even means and what a casino room typically does.
Yeah, so when they train you, like when you practicing your pitch, you can feel like the grip of the card if there's like a marking or anything on it. And especially in PLO, when they bend the cards, you can feel that extra bend in the cards. Like if it's bent too much, you pretty much have to take the card, right, the deck out, because they use 2 decks as far as Hollywood. I know in the World Series they only use 1 deck. They constantly shuffling them, but you pretty much have to stop playing and get a card change. And what they do, they don't change the whole deck. They go to each card and see the ones that are marked, and they replace it with that marked card. They won't change the whole deck. But you can see it a lot, especially in PLO when they bend the cards, and sometimes you can deal it and you can see the card that's bent, and then you ask for the card back, and a lot of times it's an ace. Like believe it or not, people are actually marking these cards. So it's up to the dealer to recognize it. Because if the player can recognize it, the dealer should be able to recognize it because he's touching the cards as well too. He's touching every one. So
Is that
a lot of
is there a process to replace? Because like I've been at Orange City, for instance, and I've seen them replace a full deck. Like they'll say new set or whatever the case. Is that like specific to each poker room how they handle it, or is it dependent on like if more than one card's marked? Like because I've seen them replace a whole set based off one card.
yeah. So what they do is if like in Hollywood, they'll replace the individual card. So you would come in, you'd be like, hey, a lot of times they will get stuck in the shuffling machine, right? So it was like bend the corner or like, because those cards are like like the Copex one, you can clean them off, you can wash them.
Yeah, they're
So a lot of
plastic. Like
times,
they got texture. Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to mark them. But these guys will mark them with a nail or something like that, and they'll just replace the card. But let me tell you something. When I was dealing one time, the shuffle machine, right, was broken, right? So then when I got to the table, like you tap out the other dealer, and I count the cards, there was only 50 cards. They were 52, right? So I called the floor and told them, hey, there's 2 cards missing, right? But I messed up because I didn't give like the code, like, hey, it's a sticky deck. It's supposed to say it's a sticky deck, right? It's supposed to go. There was 2 cards missing, right? So I didn't know. I just counted them. Say, boom, hey, there's 2 cards, right? They found it in the shuffle machine. They went back to the camera and they suspended the guy that's been working there like 25 years for 2 weeks because he was dealing with 50 cards instead of 52. And then when I said, hey, there's 2 cards missing, the jack and the 9, for example, the guy at the table was like, oh, how long has it been missing for? And was like pretty much pissed off. And the manager from the poker room was like making whatever excuse he can, like to save like the face of the Hard Rock as far as like the poker room. Like he's like, oh no, it was stuck together. It was stuck together. But it wasn't because I went through them. And then they told me back like, hey, you have to say sticky deck. Like you can't say that there's 2 cards missing.
Huh.
But
I was gonna say
and it just got stuck in the shuffle machine.
because the shuffle machine, I've seen it. It counts every card to make sure that each card's there on top of shuffling, right? Like it literally counts to make sure all 52 are there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in the Hard Rock, if you look at the left side of the dealer, they have a little screen. It tells you the cards that are missing too, or the cards that they can't read. They'll say like, hey, a queen of spades is like it's backwards. Like if they put it backwards, it tells you, hey, you can't read it. So like if you actually sometimes, I notice a lot of dealers messed up and like they're in a rush, right? So the last person to fold, right? They would like have the cards the other way, and then you can kind of see where the person had it. They don't flip it over the right way, and you can say, oh, he had ace queen or whatever. And you notice that a lot if you sit in like C1 or C9. But like as a dealer, like I noticed that more like, okay, these are actually saying the cards like that are missing.
Yeah.
So
I've seen actually now that you say it, I've always wondered because I've seen the dealers take the deck, put it in, they'll take the other deck, they're playing the hands, and then in the middle of a hand, they'll take the deck that's being shuffled, they'll take it out, they'll fix the card, they put it back in, they'll reshuffle it, and then if the hand they're doing already completed, then they got to do the whole casino hand shuffle until that one gets done. But okay, I've always wondered that. That's kind of cool that the technology can pick that up.
Yeah, I never knew that. That's cool.
So with that,
and it's only their cards. Like the deck of cards, they run them through the machine. So like if you can copy the Hard Rock's cards, but if you don't have, they haven't ran those cards. Like each card has like a something in it, like a sensor,
like a watermark or something.
Yeah, like you run it through the machine. If it doesn't have that watermark, it's not. They're not going to detect it. Man. So you can't bring fake cards either.
Yeah, don't be trying to scan the Hard Rock. That's crazy. That's crazy. So like going back to marking cards, right? Penalties. If you find someone that's marking a card and you for sure can go back to a camera and you can see them marking a card, and I'm talking specifically like WSOP in the middle of a tournament, and you go back and they're getting accused, like what do you guys think should be the penalty right there and then? If it's clear on video that person is, marking them.
I mean, disqualification from the tournament for one.
Immediate?
It depends how, like, if it's clear cut marking, yeah. I mean, I don't see why not. Yeah, if it's clear cut marking, like if it was just if they're doing something that's accidental, like like that guy was like, we were like,
that one guy,
yeah, marking, but they couldn't say like that's what he was doing. Then that's something different. But yeah, if it's clear like 100% you're cheating, then yeah, you're giving up your buy-in right there.
Yeah, I don't think this is a hard decision. I would lifetime ban them from any WSOP events. Caesars give them a lifetime ban from any of their properties, and then pretty much it's like you share the counters and stuff like that. Hey, this guy count cards, and you share them to different like casino. Hey, this guy's in Vegas, he's here counting cards and stuff like that. Same thing you should do with the person. Like, hey, this guy cheats, he marks cards and stuff like that. Like lifetime ban, just because there's no room for cheating. I feel like, especially when you're dealing with a lot of other people's money as well too. Like, for me, it's an automatic lifetime ban.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think originally when I first thought about it, it was like, I think there's two scenarios. If it's blatantly obvious and you know for sure looking at video, there's no question about it. Yeah, I think immediate ban right there on the spot. You're messing with the integrity of the game. WSOP's reputation's on the line. You got to protect the players as well. I think if there's like gray area, right? Like person's just betting the cards way too much, and whatever the case, you give them a warning, and that warning I think should be pretty drastic. I think it should be like you're missing like 3 orbits, like you're missing 3 total hands, something like that, because that's gonna piss them off and that'll get them to stop. And then if they continue to do it, then terminate it. But I think that's if there's gray area, you don't know. But if it's blatant, yeah, 100%, get them out of the tournament. You're risking the reputation for the entire series. You got to protect your players. So switching up gears here, going into Player of the Year standings, which includes 3 players we've talked about, 2 including today. So you're talking Scott Seiver is number 1 in Player of the Year standings as of this morning. Robert Mizrachi, number 2, and then Darius Samuel, number 3. So quick recap, Seiver and Mizrachi we talked about, they each got a bracelet this summer so far, and they each got number 5 career-wise. And then Darius Samuel, the guy that risked half of his bankroll, put his reputation on the line, his bankroll management on the line, won a bracelet, and now we're talking he's up there for Player of the Year, which is mind-blowing. Initial thoughts on each of those. I know we obviously drafted our teams already, but if you had to kind of pick, someone from that list, that you think can win at the end of the day, or who you want to win, who are you thinking?
Seiver. I like Seiver. I think he's proven himself multiple times over years to getting multiple bracelets in a year. He's kind of like one of those, not on the same level like say Bonomo or Fedor, but it's like when he's playing good poker, he's playing good poker, and it's hard to stop him.
Yeah.
So if he gets on a good run and he's just focused, I think he would be the guy. Mizrachi, I haven't seen those streaks from him. And Darius, I don't know anything about him, except that he's a gambler.
Yeah, in its truest form, right? What do you think, guys?
So both Scott and Robert are great players. I feel like Scott, for me, we're out of these 3, will probably hold up with more Player of the Year standings, and hopefully, this motivates him to play all the events. Like, hey, we're at event 16, 17 now. And, Scott feels like, hey, I'm first in Player of the Year points. Let me keep grinding, keep entering these tournaments. And I'm not sure Bonomo and Fedor is better than Scott Seiver. I know Fedor runs. He had this crazy run. Like, he was winning tournaments nonstop. And obviously, you need luck as well to win those. Scott Seiver is a heck of a player. He's right up there with Bonomo. So, yeah, I think my pick would be Scott Seiver. Robert's good, too, but, personally, I think I see more Seiver, so I'm going to lean towards Seiver.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to sound like I'm contradicting myself, because earlier I said I enjoy watching the players continue to win because it's good for the game. But the Darius story is just kind of mind-blowing to me. Like the whole risking your bankload. Why can't you say bankload? Your whole risking your bankroll. I think we looked at his Hendon mob before. And he had like nothing basically, and then now he's got this huge, tournament score and a bracelet. I just think from a poker storyline, it'll be crazy if you win Player of the Year.
Yeah,
like
he's got to take another one down.
An amateur takes it down. He's got the bankroll to sustain multiple bullets now and can basically free roll for the whole summer. I think it would be a really cool story that we can continue to cover throughout.
Yeah.
I think the cool thing about Player of the Year is, like, let's say Scott, we already know Scott and Robert's schedules are probably going to be really busy at the end of the day. We know they're going to do a lot of events. But when you're in top 3, like I said, I think we're like in the early 20s right now in terms of events. When you're top 3 at this point, almost 25% of the way, your events are now going up even more, because now you got a chance to get your name etched in history. Player of the Year is a lot of things, something probably guys don't even think about, because it's so hard to sustain over the course of 6 to 8 weeks, right? So I think that's cool, because we're gonna continue to see them do a lot more tournaments. And then, like I said, someone like Darius, Samuel doing more events that he probably didn't think he was going to do. If I had to pick one between these three, I'd say Darius simply for the story.
Mm-hmm.
The story I think would be cool.
Hey, if he final table domain, I mean,
If
Darius, that would solidify it right there for him.
Yeah, if Darius was someone like Chance Cornith or someone that's really good and not appreciated, but we know, then I'd probably go with Scott Seiver.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting nonetheless. I just think it's a good story. But one thing I wanted to talk about real quick was they're all playing with a chip on their shoulder, right? You got this Darius guy that's now out to prove himself, right? You've got Robert Mizrachi, who put a tweet out and was basically calling the whole 25K thing a joke because the bid that someone bid on him was a super low amount.
Mm-hmm.
So he basically is like, am I worth it now? So he's playing with a chip on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And then same thing with Scott, right? Like now he's the only one that maybe hasn't come out and said anything, but underappreciated in a sense, right? Like I think, not a lot of people probably thought Scott Seiver was going to win a bracelet this year, but when you think about it, he had 4 coming in.
Yeah.
So all these players have a chip on their shoulder, which I think is cool, and it'll be interesting to see how well they continue to do over the course of the summer.
Yeah, I mean, my Alex Livingston got 2 points, so 2 cashes, and and he went for over $100 in that 25K.
What up?
And then
First
Scott
round
Seiver,
bust.
what Scott Seiver go? $5, $6? I mean, not for nothing. I don't care how bad I am. If I get picked up for $1, I'm gonna be a little tight. Like $1, bro, $1.
Phil Hellmuth. I mean, I didn't draft him first overall.
Yeah.
Phil Hellmuth got 0 points.
Yeah.
And I was hyping him up so much, making me look terrible right now. I'm pretty sure I could have got a cash at this point before fucking whatever.
So back to this story. Darius is a great story, especially that you use pretty much your bankroll for pretty much one event because it was a 25K. It wasn't like it was let me do the shootout, let me do the gladiator, multiple events. You did one event, 25K heads up, and you took it down. And pretty much you were going against probably the best poker players in the world, especially for that 25K. So story-wise, if your story adds up, because for me it sounds kind of like, hey, I only have 50,000 total to my name. Let me waste 25K on one tournament. Sounds kind of a little fishy, but if it sounds like the story plays out the way it is, it'd be a great story for poker. And then back to Scott Seiver and Robert, not getting too much credit. Let's be honest, too. A lot of times these poker players, especially on those guys' level, if they're not running good in the first week or two of the World Series of Poker, they will bail from it. They go to cash games or they do other events, too.
Mm-hmm.
They won't really take that grind like Negreanu and Homie from a grind every tournament. And sometimes with these fantasy guys getting drafted, they look at that like, hey, Scott Seaver's great, but maybe he'll do only 12 to 13 events. He won't play all the events, So a lot of times that's how the value of these guys get drafted by playing events.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, Hector and I were talking earlier, and he was like, man, if I knew Phil Ivey was going to do this many events, I would have drafted Phil Ivey. And I think anyone would have. And he went for $16 in the 25K, which is wild because if someone said Phil Ivey was going to play in as many tournaments as he can, he arguably would have been a top 5, from a value standpoint, easily top 5, right? So it's just crazy. I remember when Negreanu was talking about some sleepers he had, and then you look at the 25K and you see how cheap some of these people are gone. Like you said, Scott Seiver went for how much? Like, it's just crazy. Like, it could be any one summer, and all it takes is one bracelet, and from a fantasy standpoint and POI standpoint, it's gonna shoot you up the chart. So, that's why I'm hoping Ryan comes through and plays some events for me because I'm gonna need some points. Real quick, for the viewers that have been paying attention to our fantasy teams from our draft, updated standings. And this is not accounting for a couple players on each of our teams so
Scott
far.
Seiver went for $37.
37? I mean, still value,
still
right?
pretty good.
He's now number 1 in Player of the Year standing. So, overall right now, Ice is in first. His number 1 pick, Yuri, 73 points as of this morning, doing what
Killing it.
he drafted him to do. Put up points. I think he's anchored by a 4th place and a 10K high-low. tournament. So good stuff there, Ice. Ice still doesn't have his points added up for Cherish Andrews and Brad Owens, so he's gonna get some more points. Second place right now is myself, anchored by my number one pick, Negreanu, who's got 50. Alex Foxen in at 28. And then Helmuth, as mentioned, has 0 points for me. And then our buddy Ryan Slocum. He's not out there at the WSOP just yet, but we also have 99 events total, so there's still plenty of time. And then Hector's alive in there. Josh Ario holding it down. His number one pick is a bust with Alex Livingston with 2 points.
It's early. It's early.
Nick Schulman at ODB getting some points as well, and then he doesn't have points from the Apollo and Victoria Lifshitz.
So the good part about the Paulo is, from watching his vlog, he's doing daily vlogs for the WSOP, which is good. So mimicking D-Negs. But D-Negs is actually backing him for all the live events. So he's going to be playing a lot of tournaments as opposed to, what he was doing previously, which is like going out for a week or two. So I'm happy about my choice. He just hasn't performed. He got his first live cash today. He has cashed 3 of the 4 online events, but I don't know how that's going to work out with points wise or anything like that. So I am happy with my choice with him. He just hasn't performed. So hopefully he'll get something going, and Livingston remembers how to play. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's good because you have no points from the number one pick, and he's gonna cash some events eventually. Still early.
Yeah.
Like his team has D-Neg, even though he's carrying them now. D-Neg's still gonna play all the events, so it's just like the points that he can bring. It's like my guys like shit the bed pretty much. Like I can just lose to D-Negs. Heck, you got Ryan Apollo. Ryan Apollo, if he's playing every event, he's gonna cash more events, so it's gonna bring more points.
He's won more in slots than he has.
You want these guys to play every event.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Sean Deepan will keep up with Negreanu and all these top picks, and then Yuri and Ben Lang can just then you can just pick it up. Hopefully.
Well, I mean, Poker Go is listening to us because I just got a notification that they're streaming the 25K high roller.
Boom!
That's happening right now.
That's a pivot. I like it.
And on top of that, you're gonna come away with this, man, because you're already ahead by 30 points, and you got 3 of your guys in the top 54 right now, with Chance with top sixth in
currently in the high roller.
And Ivy again. Up there, I think I got one guy with Nick Showman that he's doing well with a healthy stack, and I think you have Foxen she's at the lower end, but she's still in.
She's still alive. Is she? She was. All right, Aldemir's out. He's on my team. Kristen Foxen's she's literally has the second least amount of chips. Seiver's still alive. Deeb's in there still.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a ton of points, man.
Yeah. Ice is gonna get a lot of.
And then Ivy Schulman still in there. Chance Cornet has a top 6 stack. So yeah, I mean this is
I need Schulman to take it down.
This is a big one right here. This is a big tournament.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's just cool. I think just doing this whole podcast in general is fun because it allows us to be on top of players that we wouldn't always normally follow. And a lot of these players aren't content creators, right? Like, Jason Kuhn's in that tournament. I think we all have a massive amount of respect for Jason Kuhn and what he could do in tournaments. But from a social media perspective, I'd love to see like a vlog or something for him, but we can't see that, right? Because he doesn't have it. But it's cool following it this closely on a daily basis because we can at least see how well they're doing in these tournaments. So, all right. So POI, our fantasy setting. So switching up. Getting away from poker because we did cover this on the last stream, and I think we all, as a collective group, should be a little bit embarrassed because we all were wrong on our predictions. Although the series is not over, it's not looking good.
Not over.
The Dallas Mavericks are down 2-0 to the Celtics. Thoughts? Let me know.
It can still be done in 6. I don't have much just because I was away this weekend, so I didn't get to see any of the games. I do know because you were watching when we were having the call that the Mavs were having like a massive comeback.
Game one, game
but
one, they
they still
were
fell short.
down by almost 30, and they cut the lead down to, I think, 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Celtics did what they've done the first 2 games, and that's just they go on these runs.
Yeah.
And, they just put them away. Ice, what do you think so far from the first 2 games?
Yeah, so let's be realistic. The Celtics were the best team all year. I'm still going for the Mavericks because I hate the Celtics. So, but everybody knows that the Celtics, best team in the East, best record in the NBA. And I want to see how, when Dallas goes home, how do they play on their home court? If they come up and they win the next 2 games, I think Dallas will win. But if the Celtics can take one of those 2 games, then I think it ends in 5.
Yeah.
Because you got to take home court advantage as a big plus, especially if you're playing in Boston. Those fans can get under the skin. The fans get rowdy. So it's so the Mavericks still got a chance. Obviously, I hope they win because I hate the Celtics. But Celtics been the best team. They get Porzingis back. Porzingis came off the bench blocking shots, scoring 20-something points. Like he's to have a guy coming off the bench like Porzingis it's hard for the Dallas to keep up with him. So let's see. Hopefully Dallas comes back.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. It's obviously going to be tough because they got a 2-0 hole. Mavs just got to do what the Celtics did.
Yeah.
Win at home, take care of home court advantage, and you can even the series. Like, that's all that matters. The one thing I didn't consider in my 6-game prediction was that Kyrie can't win in Boston. Since he's left Boston, he can't win in Boston. So that's something I didn't account for. And the fact that there will be, if this went 7 games, 4 games in Boston, and they can't win there, that's going to be tough. Still think the Mavs can pull it out, but they got to win on the road, and it's hard to win in Boston. The one thing I hated seeing, especially in the first game, was how much one-on-one basketball they were playing. The Mavs. Obviously, Luka's game is tailored around kind of isolation. Same with Kyrie. But their supporting cast isn't as good, but you got to get the other players involved. You have to. It was borderline atrocious. I think Luka finished with like 1 or 2 assists. The guy averages like 10 a game. Like that just, you want a chance to win, you can't do that. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting. If the Mavs end up winning it all, it's definitely probably going to go to 7 games, but it's not looking good. Not looking good.
Not at all. The Celtics are proving their defense. That Drew Holiday trade was crazy.
Yeah.
The Bucks get rid of him for Damian Lillard. Like sometimes they have to understand, like you have to value a guy that can play defense, get steals, don't care about scoring. And I just felt like that was bad. You can bring Lillard, but don't trade Holiday. And they traded him to the Celtics. The Celtics had Marcus Smart, all these guys, but they knew how valuable Holiday was. So and he scored 26 points. I think his second highest ever in his career. And you're talking about in the finals.
Yeah, Holiday. And he grabbed like 9-10 boards on top of that for a point guard. Like, dude is balling out. He does the little things. Like, he's a glue guy, good leadership, plays defense. He does the little things. That trade never made sense. Obviously, you get a guy like Lillard that can drop literally 40 a night, but you don't need to put someone like that around Giannis, in order to be successful. You've already won without a guy like that with Giannis, and to bring him on, it's definitely questionable. But going and talking about this team right here, the Yankees, a big series just took place in Yankee Stadium versus the Dodgers. Potential preview right now of the World Series. I think bookmakers at the moment have the Yankees and the Dodgers both favored to win each of their leagues and to meet in the championship. Ice, what were your overall takes from this, this series that took place in Yankee Stadium?
It was awesome. You have the 2 best teams in the league for me. Obviously, the 2 teams with the most show power as far as like the attractions. You have your Otanis, your Judge, your Betts, your Sotos, and getting back to Soto, I wish Soto would have played. It's a big bat, so hopefully we get to see this rematch in the World Series. That'd be good for baseball. And also too, Not to make excuses, but we had Soto hurt. Gary Cole didn't pitch. Um, so and then this guy Hernandez, Tesco Hernandez, went off on us. So he had a big game, big series actually. It was good. It was good seeing Otani in Yankee Stadium. It was good. It was great for baseball. But as a Yankee fan, I would like to see our team healthy against the Dodgers to see exactly where we stand. Because game one was good, game two got kind of out of hand, and then we took game three. Uh, and honestly, man, if we had Soto with Judge in that lineup, I don't know what we could have done with that Dodgers pitching because Soto gets on base and Judge has been on a tear. So
Yeah.
it sucks that Soto wasn't there because Soto keep bringing Soto up, but Soto's such a big part of the lineup because he gets on base for the Judges, and then also he brings that swag to the team. So when you go into a series against the Dodgers and the first thing you hear is, Soto has some forearm tightness or something like that. You already come in thinking negative. You like the game you come into the park like, are we gonna lose Soto for the whole year with Tommy John or something? Because every time it says tightness in the elbow, the first thing that comes up is Tommy John.
Yeah.
So I know the Yankee players in that dugout too had to be like, oh man, like we losing Soto. And you heard the fans yesterday's game when they had Grissom hitting, they was like, we want Soto, we want Soto. Even Soto was laughing in the dugout. So it's just like he brings that energy and that swag to the fans and the team. It's like we need him. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, in general, it would be nice to see the Yankees at full strength. We've had Soto all year outside of the last 3 games. So we know what we look like from offense with him in the lineup, which is obviously converts into the best record in baseball. Garrett Cole to me is really going to be interesting because the best pitcher in baseball coming back to the best record. You got Lewis Gill, who's been lights out killing it. Nestor's doing his thing. Carlos Rodon is doing his thing now after a down year last year. So it'll be interesting. I will say, shout out to Grisham, though, because although Soto, the fans wanted Soto, Grisham hit a bomb last night when they were literally chanting for Soto. So he came through. That's got to be tough. You get limited at bats. You're filling in for Soto, hitting in the bottom of the lineup, but then you deliver a bomb. So good stuff there. That lit up Yankee Stadium for sure, and it's good to have role players deliver like that in those moments. I know Hector, you're not a Yankee fan. You probably didn't watch the series, but and anything to add?
Let's go Mets.
Yeah, so that's why we didn't include you in this conversation, Hector.
also, you my Carlos Rondon. My boss was actually FaceTiming me like a few minutes ago because NC State just beat Georgia and is going to the College World Series.
Nice.
So I know Rondon went to NC State.
Nice.
So that's crazy. That was a good series.
That's dope. And real quick, before we get off this topic and kind of wrap up, it'd be silly not to mention what Aaron Judge is doing right now. Like, the man had a terrible April. I mean, I'm not going to lie. You don't want to hit the panic button in April, but he was horrendous. Low 200 batting average. Wasn't hitting for power. Wasn't hitting for contact, average, nothing. And then May 4th, he received his first ejection ever in his career. Since then, 33 games. He's gone 48 for 114, 18 bombs, and he's on pace for 58 bombs. So, he went from hitting basically sub plus 200-ish to now he's hitting over 300, leading the league in most categories, major categories. It's just insane what he's doing. I mean, people that don't watch baseball that often don't understand how insane these numbers look.
Listen, you know how insane it is, and I break it down as gamblers, like how a gambler would take it. He went from plus 475 to hit a homer every game to plus 115.
That's wild.
Pretty much you almost getting even money for him to go yard. That's ridiculous. That's Barry Bonds type.
Yeah.
And then also his hair is not just hitting bombs; it's getting clutch hits, taking base on balls. He's been playing out of this world. And back to that start in April, the reason I feel like he's doing so good now is we started off good in April. Juan Soto started kicking us off and stuff like that. So while he was struggling, we were winning. So the media's not going to get on you, So he had that time to, relax and not take the pressure on because we were winning. And now he's hot. And now it's just like we got all these guys that are slumping, but we don't know because he's carrying the team. And that's what an MVP does. And that's what he got his money. And that's why he's the captain of the Yankees.
Yeah.
And you're not just a captain of any team, you're the captain of the Yankees. They don't give that title out a lot. And his skill set and the way he carries himself, he's just a leader of the team. And I don't care. Like, I know I'm a big Yankee fan, you're a big Yankee fan, but kids love seeing Judge. And what he's doing is great for baseball.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I stopped watching baseball, and I always said I was going to stop watching baseball when Jeter retired. Like,
Yeah.
he was the reason at that point why I still watch baseball. And then started slowly getting back into it again. And I watch it almost every single day, at least looking at the scores, staying on top of it. And who brought me back was Judge. That first year when they kind of brought him up, hit that bomb in like his first game, like, he's really brought me back, and he's brought a lot of Yankee fans back and excitement to the franchise. It's the Yankees. They're expected to win, don't get me wrong, but he brings a lot of excitement. And I thought when Jeter retired, we would have never seen a leader like Jeter. On and off the field, Jeter did all the right things, said all the right things, and that's what Judge does. He does and says all the right things. He had an interview either yesterday after the game or earlier today, and they asked him about the fans chanting Soto, and he is just such a leader. He basically said, I didn't like it. I believe in my guys that are up there right now, and they delivered, and that's the type of guy that you'll run through a wall for. That's the type of guy that you want on your team. He just leads by example, and he's literally bigger than life. He's practically 7 foot tall, but then he's just an all-star, and he does all the little things right. And we're just lucky to have him on our team because he could have been arson judge on the Giants and it could have screwed us. But thank God he ended up re-signing with the Yankees.
And another thing, I know a lot of people like talk a lot of stuff about Yankee fans and just I saw it just like praising too much Aaron Judge. But as soon as Aaron Judge go in the slump, the media comes and just like throws him under the bus, like, oh, he's struggling. Any Yankee player, because we play in the biggest market of baseball, which is New York City. So we play for the best franchise in history. He plays for the best franchise in history. So it's just like he's under so much pressure. So when he's doing good, it's good to give him flowers because they go the media and then every day, like the fans that you have to deal with in New York is not easy. So the same way you criticize him when he started off his career, striking out a lot, and it wasn't until his second year when he went against Altuve for the MVP race, they were criticizing because he was striking out too much. He hit 50-something home runs, but they still said, hey, he strikes out. His strikeout rate is too high. And they always criticize him because he plays for the Yankees. So now that he's doing good and he's having this historical tip for the Yankees, I feel like he deserves this plus a lot more.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, it's great. I know a lot of people hate the Yankees, but just like when certain sports are good or better, when certain teams are better, I feel like Major League Baseball is better when the Yankees are good. Like,
Yeah.
it just kind of sets the tone for the whole season, and that's what you want to see. Hector, I'm sorry that the Mets are an absolute, I'm not gonna get into there. They're absolutely horrendous, but
league is better when the Yankees are.
But
Okay.
yeah, but we'll leave it at that. Mets don't know what it's like to win. They haven't won in how many years? Yeah, I forgot.
86, 85.
I mean, we haven't won in 15 years, but I mean,
84.
it's been the Yankees haven't had it easy. We've had to watch Boston raise a trophy before we have in the last decade plus. So it's all good. We'll get back there. So yeah, let's wrap it up real quick. The next tournament, the next app call tournament, is on the calendar. So we'll probably do a little preview of what that's gonna look like next week. Maybe we'll talk about maybe certain things we're looking for in certain players and just kind of recap what we got coming up. That's taking place on the 21st, I believe, Friday.
Yeah, a couple weeks.
So that's gonna be fun. We'll talk a little bit more about that, and maybe we'll show like what our tournament breakdown looks like in terms of scoring and kind of show, because I don't think we've actually ever showed it on screen. So maybe we'll kind of provide a little highlight of what the rankings look like.
Yeah.
And then also real quick, just a shout out to all the viewers, the engagements, all the impressions we've gotten. We've been posting a lot more lately.
Yeah. WSOP has it's a lot of content, so there's a lot of poker news that's out there, and we want to keep you guys informed, and you guys have been responding, so just thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's doesn't seem like it, but it takes a lot of work to kind of, post on social media. You kind of got to be available all times of the day. And we weren't exactly sure what it was going to look like when we ramped up how much we were going to be posting. But shout out to you guys for the impressions and the views and just the interactions on all platforms, because we see it. Our viewers and our follower counts have really skyrocketed for our metrics and our standards. So just thank you guys to the viewers for showing that love. And we're just going to keep going hard for the WSOP for you guys, to give you guys as much content as possible.
Yes, main event is 3 weeks away.
Oh my God.
So
I'm not ready for the main event, man.
Yeah, there's going to be...
That's scary to think that the main event's that close.
Yeah, if this much news is happening within 7 days, imagine what's going to happen until then.
Yeah.
So,
well, the good thing is, right, like we talked about it before, the WSOP main event is not the last event. So there'll still be a lot of coverage taking place after that. But, yeah, we'll see. Lots to cover. We'll be keeping track of the finals, keeping track of Player of the Year and our fantasy teams, and we'll keep chugging along.
Yeah. So
and Ice is out there playing live cash games out there down in Bonita Springs. So he'll keep us
and all the old folks.
He'll keep us updated on how he's doing. He's going to provide us with some content so we can give you guys a overview of the card room down there. So expect to post about that shortly. But other than that, you guys got anything else to add?
Like, subscribe, follow us, share it with any poker people that you think might like our content. Also, we do have our shirts out. If you want to support us that way, go to thesnapcall.com. You can find a link in all of our socials as well.
Shout out to everybody. I'm out here in Bonita Springs Poker Room. Nice poker room. Get some content soon from that. And appreciate all the love. I posted on my personal Instagram page, and you got Petey, a lot of guys wishing me good luck and stuff like that. And shouting out Snapcall as well, too. So appreciate the love, guys.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, y'all. We will see you next Monday. And as they said, follow us on all social media platforms to stay updated on all things Snapcall and all things WSOP. We'll see you guys next week.
See you.
Yeah, I'm feeling myself right now. It's a new year. We about to do this. Let's go. I feel like the king of my city. Tony Montana. Whole lot of bands I gotta spend. I might go cut me a mansion. I feel like the king of my city.